Hi everybody, David Nour. I want to welcome you to another Periscope session, a weekly Periscope. I'm delighted you're here, and I want to focus today on just exceptional customer experience, customer service. By the way, I don't want to make you jealous, but I am at the beautiful Ritz-Carlton, Key Biscayne in Florida. And thankfully, the crazy hurricane that's going through this area hasn't hit us yet. But I wanted to share with you some insights, some ideas and best practices on really delivering consistently an exceptional customer experience in a very kind of transactional world that we're all living in. I don't know if you've heard me speak, but I often talk about the story of, since I'm a Ritz-Carlton, I thought I'd share the story with you, of speaking at a Ritz-Carlton property, and I showed up for breakfast, and I usually wear a dark suit. So at breakfast, instead of the white napkin, I asked one of the wait staff for a dark napkin. Hello, Peter used to go from Atlanta. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining. So I asked the wait staff for a dark napkin, and we had our breakfast, and I went next door and I presented my session, and a couple other people presented, and we came back to the next ballroom for lunch. And the young lady was standing at the door with a platter and a dark napkin looking for me. Now this was a meeting of 200-300 people. And I've always wondered, is that nature or is that nurture? Was she born that way, or was she trained to be that attentive, that attuned to delivering exceptional experiences? You know how many people I've told that story to? Probably 20, 30,000. I also have a whole bunch of stories that I know you do as well, of the other side of the spectrum, right? So really poor service, where you feel like you're having an out-of-body experience. Don't these people realize, I'm me, the customer, is the reason they have a job? Don't they realize that only by delivering that great experience will they set themselves, their products, their services, apart from everybody else? Think about it. For most of us, throughout the day, we all have options. We have choices. Again, I'm traveling, so I have choices in what airline I take. I have choices in what rental car company, or in many ways what hotel I stay in. And it doesn't get to be any more of a commodity than a hotel room or a rental car, or think about almost anything we go through. So beyond that product, beyond that service, the experience they create is what sets people aside. It sets them apart from everybody else. Thanks for those who have joined late. This session is just really focused on, I wrote down 5 ideas for delivering just exceptional customer experiences in a very transactional world, in a very kind of ho-hum world that most of us are living in, with a lot of options. By the way, the missus sends me the other day to buy some toothpaste. I show up and there's 37 flavors of this toothpaste on the shelf. And I'm like, and it's just one brand, right? So most of our life has become commodities. And if you don't want to become a commodity, that's what I'm hoping you'll pay attention to in delivering exceptional experiences for people that interact with you, with your brand, with your unique value add. So here we go. 5 ideas to deliver exceptional customer experiences. Number 1, I'm assuming your business, you have to interact with people, right? If you sit in a corner and you don't talk to anybody, this might not be relevant to you. But I'm a big believer of nature first, DNA. For those of you who know me, I was born in the Middle East, and the bazaars of the Middle East, they're all about service and interaction and that interpersonal relationship. And unfortunately, our text messaging world creates a disconnect from that service DNA. So I'm a big believer of hire for attitude, hire for that servant DNA, hire people, work with people. They don't also have to be employees, but work with people who understand that they're in the relationship business, that they're in the service business. I remember years ago, Disney was one of my clients, and the Walt Disney World, along with Ritz-Carlton and Nordstrom and some of these brands that have really built a reputation for service, their hiring profiles is one of, we want to make sure we hire people who understand that they don't walk by a piece of trash. and they cater to clients. Again, I'm staying at a Ritz-Carlton. This event is at a Ritz-Carlton this week, and within 5 minutes of having walked into my room, I get a call. And, this is so-and-so, and I'm calling to just check in and see how was your experience and how was your check-in. And so if you don't like talking to people, if you don't like interacting with people, that's probably not going to be a great job for you, right? So you have to start by hiring and choosing to work with people who have that service mentality, that have that serving mentality, that you've heard of servant leadership mentality. So number one is nature. Try to really ascertain their DNA and really work with people that have that natural, instinctual, in many ways, need to serve or wanting to serve. Number two is nurture. The Ritz-Carlton example I gave you. If you bring in the right DNA, do you then have the right training and development? Do you have the right processes in place? Do you have the right investment in place to really train them in what you expect? I've been a student of business relationships for the last going on 2 decades, and I've often said relationships go bad with misaligned expectations. Think about it a second. You said you were going to do this. This is what I experienced. The gap is where we have a problem. The gap is where we have a misaligned expectation. So if you create training processes, if you create processes in general that are repeatable, that are predictable, the right person with the right attitude that wants to be there can then follow them and create great service. So I'm a big believer of continuously, not one and done, continuously investing in people you work with. And I keep talking about employees, but they don't have to be employees. They can be partners, about what those expectations are, about the level of service you expect. I tell my clients early on that I don't want to chase you to return my calls and emails. And I certainly am not going to chase you to get paid, right? So, level setting those expectations early and often avoids the chance for misalignment of those expectations, right? So number one, nature, right? Do they have that service DNA? Number two, nurture. Put them in the right roles. Invest in training them, investing in developing them. I'm also reminded of that great quote, a CFO asking a CEO, what happens if we train these people and they leave? And the CEO says, what if we don't and they stay, right? So what happens if you don't invest in your relationships, in the service that you expect, in the service that you're accustomed to, and you keep working with them, right? I believe we often enable some of the bad behaviors or bad service that we get. And we just kind of put up with it, or we're indifferent, whether it's a bad meal or a bad service. Hey, let's just not say anything. They're going to spit in our food. No, we all have choices. And making sure that service is the level that it needs to be is critical. So we're talking about 5 ideas for how to create exceptional customer experience. Number 1, nature. Number 2, nurture. Number 3, details. Have you ever heard somebody say, wait, that doesn't matter. Yeah, it's good enough. I'm trying to tell you, good enough is the kiss of death. Good enough might as well be cancer. In any team, in any company, good enough is never good enough, right? So the details matter more than ever before. And people notice it, right? I've used the analogy of, imagine you driving up to a company and in their parking lot is trash. What are you thinking? These people could care less, right? They don't want my business, or they don't want to work with me, or they don't care, which is, again, cancer, right? Conversely, what if you drive up and there's flowers, right? Fresh flowers, and that are leading up to the entrance. The door is clean, the windows are clean, there's no trash anywhere to be found. You walk in, there's a polite, smiling receptionist. Now what are you thinking? I can't wait to see the rest of this place, right? So I'm a huge believer of details matter more than ever before. Again, I'm doing this session from a hotel, and it's incredibly pleasant when you walk in and there's a note. There's a handwritten note from the general manager. Think about it. They have the reservation. They know you're showing up. And there's a hotel in Toronto that does this literally every time I've been up there. And it says, Dear Mr. Nour, want to welcome you back. And by the way, in their profile, they know that I like healthy stuff, right? So there's a plate of fruit, and the note says, please accept this plate of fruit with our compliments. Thank you for staying with our property. And it's signed by the general manager, and his name and his extension is bottom of that card. I've never gotten that treatment at Courtyard, right? I pay a premium for that level of attention to details, but my point is the details. They know me, they know my preference, they know my like, they know my prejudices, they know it wasn't a bowl of candy. It was a plate of fresh fruit. So the details matter more than ever before. And I don't care what business you're in, I don't care what role you're in. You have to start by you yourself paying a lot of attention to details, but also making sure others around you really believe in that same notion that details matter in that experience. Number 4, metrics. How do you create? I've always said, and I've always been taught, inspect what you expect, right? So if you don't have the right metrics in place to measure the level of customer experience and customer satisfaction, how do you expect people to do it consistently? And consistency is the key. So really important that you have win-win metrics. If my expectation is that people are not going to walk by a piece of trash, I'm going to give spot bonuses to people that I see doing that. I'm going to give spot bonuses to and recognize them for the great service that they offer. I'm going to ask. A lot of people do customer satisfaction surveys. I think they're stale, or they unfortunately measure the wrong things, right? I fly Delta Airlines. I live in Atlanta. I fly Delta Airlines a great deal. They constantly send me these goofy surveys. Several times I've taken the time to respond to their surveys. Crickets, right? You have no idea where those surveys go. Number 2, I have no idea what anybody does with those, right? So I filled out the survey. Where did it go? What did you do with it? Because I've never seen the results from those surveys. So customer satisfaction surveys in many ways are stale, and they don't work. What I believe in is things like Net Promoter Score that really capture, would you recommend us? And I believe in things like sentiment analysis that really help people understand, how did this person feel about us at this moment? And what their words say. If somebody, how was your service? It was fine. Are they really raving about you? Are they really just static about what you're doing and how you're doing it and just really excited to work with you? No. So that sentiment analysis, really understanding how people feel, what they're thinking, what's of interest and value to them at that point in time is really important. It's really critical. For those of you who've joined late, we're talking about really 5 best practices in creating exceptional customer experiences in a kind of a boring, ho-hum, dull world that we live in. So number 1 was nature. Hire people to have that servant leadership. 2 was nurture. Put them in the right jobs. Train and develop them. And this could be not just employees, but also partners, people you work with outside the organization. 3 was details. They matter more than ever before. Pay particular attention to details. 4 is metrics. Measure the right things. Really measure the right service-centric things. And the last one is compensation. Have you ever worked for a company where they measure A and they compensate B? Right? People are our most valuable asset. First sign of economic problem, let's lay off everybody. Right? You're sending completely mixed signals. So I'm a huge believer of not just measure the right service efforts, service initiatives, but compensate people, pay people, compensate your partners, compensate people that are supporting you for that relationship centricity, for that service centricity. If you do that, people will stay with you. If you do that, they'll keep coming back and working for you, working with you. And those are just 5 ideas. I could probably ramble on for an hour on this topic. One bonus point for you, I carry around a notebook and I capture things that happen to me, experiences that I go through, good, bad, indifferent, ugly, throughout the day. Especially if you travel, especially if you interact with a lot of different types of people. It's an amazing tool to just simply jot down what happened and the scenario in which happened, and start to bring those conversations into your company, into your partnerships with, look at this scenario. Again, the Ritz-Carlton example I gave you with the black napkin. So I'm asking a lot of executives, what's your black napkin? There's a comment, I replaced some service providers. When the CEO called, he said service surveys said we're 100% satisfied, right? So, in surveys, that's a great point. In surveys, we don't want to offend anybody, so we just either, if we fill them out at all, everything was fine. But you're right, exactly right. It's goofy. It doesn't give us a chance to really share. It's like the Delta surveys asking me, how was your seat? Well, the seat was fine. The gate agent was rude. or the flight was delayed. The seat doesn't matter in some ways, right? So they pick one piece of the whole experience, and you're right, the surveys are completely disconnected from what we experience. They're also outdated. I'm writing my 10th book, and I talk about lagging indicators versus leading indicators, right? Are you trying to drive by looking in the rearview mirror, or are you looking ahead, and are you anticipating from those real-time insights, if you will? So for those of you who may be new to Periscope or my Periscope, I try to do these almost every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern, typically from where I am. I'm delighted you were here. I try to keep them short, and there's value in brevity. Again, hope you can swipe and share, whether you watch it live or you watch it afterwards. And more importantly, I hope you'll come back and join us for future sessions. My name is David Nour. I'm author, I'm a consultant, I'm a speaker. And Tuesdays at 1 o'clock Eastern, I'd like to share just tidbits that hopefully are practical, pragmatic, and you can put them to use. That's it for this week. Thanks, everybody. Make it a great week. All the best. Bye-bye.